Welcome to Panaloids, Comic Books, and More, your fix of comic book related news, rumors, leaks, reviews, and creator interviews. Today, we're joined by the absolutely amazing Kelly Thompson, writer of countless fan favorite series for DC, Marvel, and beyond. Tonight, we'll be diving into her take on Diana and the creative process behind Absolute Wonder Woman. Plus, we'll talk about Jessica Jones, The Cull, Birds of Prey, and more. We're excited for this one, so let's get into it. Kelly, I love your book. And I'm not just talking about this book. I also love Jeff. This is like my favorite Wonder Woman of all time. Like I've never picked up a Wonder Woman book. Like I'll pick it up and like I'll throw it down like aggressively. Yeah. This one like stayed in my hand and might be next to my bedside literally right now. I'll go to my bed right now in the other room. It's on my bedside.
Well, thank you. That means a lot. I love a lot of Diana's stories, but I think that at least some of what's happening now is a little bit from me having some of the same reaction, especially when I was a kid, because I really wanted to read Wonder Woman, but I was often like really confused by it. Like it felt really overwhelming. There were so many characters and, you know, this is not a swing on anyone. Comics is an incredibly hard job to do as an artist. It's an absolutely unrelenting schedule. And when someone's like, hey, Diana has 50 sisters and they're all hot and they all look sort of the same and you got to finish this in 20 days. I mean, is it surprising? Like they all look the same and it gets confusing for people. So I do think I thought about a lot of that stuff that had driven me away from Wonder Woman over the years from time to time and made it weirdly hard to fall in love with her. And then once I did and I started reading and rereading her stories after I fell for her, I think it changed it for me. But I really have that in my mind, like that it took me a long time. Even though I wanted to love her, it took a while to figure that out. And so I do think when I write it, I try to approach it that way. But, you know, you can't do that approach unless you get this specific opportunity where it's like, hey, rebuild a thing. And so once you've got the idea, I think you're in the best possible position there because you can draw from all this stuff that's come before, but you can cut your own path and you can trim stuff back and nobody expects it all to be there right away. So you have the time to like build it up. It's a great scenario. It's a very good job to have. I lucked out.
It's incredible. I just ordered a 9.8. Like I'm definitely going to find you at some point to get it signed because I'm so in love with what you're doing with it.
Oh, well, thank you.
Just wanted to get that out real quick.
Well, just so you know, I know it's not super helpful if you want stuff slabbed and things, because I know that there are a lot of rules about how that has to be witnessed or whatever, but I do both have comics that I sign from my shop that I sell, but also if you have comics you want signed, I let people send them to me and I just return them. If you send a post address, don't send more than 20 at a time, but yeah, I'll sign them in return to you. I'm happy to do that for fans, especially because I don't really do cons and signings. I know that's hard for people who are really interested in signatures. That's one of the reasons I opened the shop in the first place. And, you know, I get that people have got stuff from going way far back that they'd like signed. So yeah, I do that. No problem. Go to my website. The email's on there. You can find it all.
I just want to say thank you for offering that service. I'm not the graded guru that these three are. I like my stuff raw.
Yeah, it'll go better for you for sure. I did talk to some guys who do that stuff where they set up those CGC signings. Hayden and I talked about maybe doing one together, but where it's like a private signing, but you can pre-order the books or whatever. I'm a little new to it. So there might be one of those coming too if you guys are interested in that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
You know, I'd love to take credit for Wonder Woman like as some sort of solo venture, but it's like such a village that's building it and it wouldn't be possible without each of those people. You know, Mattia and I, we did Jessica Jones together at Marvel. We did The Cull, a creator-owned book together. So it comes very naturally for us to work together. But, you know, this is the first time I worked with Hayden and it's just like locked and clicked in. They've got a real ability to just inspire you to go bigger and better and bolder and more emotional with everything they do. It's like when they turn in art, it feels like a challenge to like, well, what can I give them next? Because they just dominate everything. It's incredible. It's been really wonderful.
I saw they did Batman.
The Batman Dark Matter stuff, it's incredible. They're drawing that at the same time they're doing Absolute Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Like, what more iconic? That's the other thing I'm in awe in. Every day I get slower. Every day Hayden seems to get faster. I don't know what that is, but it's not great. I got to stay on my toes.
The combination, though, it's just incredible. All right, Kelly, could you tell our viewers about your career in comics?
Sure. I discovered comics, sort of. I had read Archie Digest when I was really little, but I mostly discovered like the wider world of comics, that there were shops and all these books and they came out monthly and, all the things we know now and take for granted. I discovered that when I was a teenager, largely through my brother bringing home a copy of Uncanny X-Men 290. Yeah, with Storm on the cover. And he's like, it's the girl from that cartoon that we'd been watching that we'd fallen in love with. And so, like many people, that was my entry into X-Men and my discovery into the wider world of comics. I knew right away. I'd always wanted to be a writer, but I didn't really know, you don't know what shape that's going to look like. And when I sort of discovered comics, I was like, oh, this is it. This is what I want to do. I also drew, but not well. I did end up studying art and graphic design when I went away to school. And then I transferred to the Savannah College of Art and Design to specifically study sequential art. And that really felt right in a way that my other university hadn't. It just started clicking for me. And then I left college, and like every person who leaves college, I had to pay for my life, and I just went into the workforce, just sort of chipping away at stories on the back burner. And eventually, after moving to New York, I started writing a blog, which became a Comics Should Be Good blog called She Has No Head, and then started meeting people and doing more writing. And eventually I got the first big job I got was Gem and the Holograms for IDW. That was like my first big published work. I'd already, with Meredith McLaren, a frequent collaborator of mine, we'd already started a graphic novel with Dark Horse called Heart in a Box. That was the first paid contract I signed, but it takes a really long time for a graphic novel to come out, especially when Meredith was penciling, inking, coloring, and lettering the damn thing. So, it took a long time for that to come out. So Gem ended up coming out before it, but that came out, Gem, all in the same year. And that got me my first gig at Marvel, which was a co-write on Captain Marvel and the Carol Corps. You just keep trying to climb that ladder.
It's incredible. I mean, everything that you've been able to go through is just crazy. And now where we are, where you've made it.
It's weird to look back in retrospect because it's only been about 10 years. I mean, 2015 was when Gem started coming out. So 10 years doesn't sound that long. And I've had a lot of success. I've been really lucky at the opportunities that have come my way. But it is weird to have Jeff going viral at the same time that Absolute Wonder Woman is for sure the most popular thing I've been and most well-reviewed thing I've ever done. So those two things all of a sudden be happening 10 years in, especially when Jeff was created, 5, 6, 7 years ago. I can't do the math. That's not my strong suit, but he's been around for a while. So those two things happening at the same time, and then them happening at the same time that wheels are coming off the universe. It's a very strange way. Like, you're so grateful for it, but you're also like, really? Do things have to be so bad right now? Can I just enjoy this nice thing that's finally coming together here?
I think it's not just Jeff and Absolute Wonder Woman. You also have Birds of Prey going. You have so many things happening all at the same time, and they're all like, I got to take a look at a couple of these books and pick them up. Like, you've just been incredible, like, your whole life.
Thank you. I mean, I think that a little bit of it is I just care a lot. Like, this is all I care about are comics and like doing my job well. So saying I always nail it, I have flaws just like anyone else, but I put the same amount of effort in Absolute Wonder Woman as I do to Birds of Prey, as I do to Jeff, as I do to, like, I can't not care about it. And I'm also firmly of the belief that especially when you're working in an industry like this, you're only as good as the last thing someone's read from you. So, if you pick up a book today and you read a shitty Kelly Thompson story, then maybe you're like, oh, she's lost it, or, oh, I didn't like that, or maybe she's not for me anymore. Maybe I've outgrown her. But it also could be someone's first story that they'll never try anything else out of yours because they read one that wasn't so great. So I think you can't really sleep on it. You got to really bring it, the passion and the energy to everything you can. It doesn't mean you can do them all excellently. You try your best, but I'm just saying I think the effort's got to be there or you're in trouble.
Birds of Prey has been my favorite.
Oh, thank you.
Because it's like my first intro into it. I've never actually read a Birds of Prey book before this. Can you tell me a little bit about your Birds of Prey run?
Yeah. So, I mean, Birds of Prey is sort of a dream come true. I think especially any female creator would sort of love to get their hands on it. It's not only some of the best female characters that you get to write. Like, sometimes if you want to build a female team, you have to really justify that. Like, I ran into that trouble at Marvel a little bit where they'd be like, okay, but why these characters? And I'm like, I don't know, because they're the best fucking characters and I want to write them. Like, oh, I don't want to justify it beyond that. I want to justify it within the story, but like sometimes they want some additional thing. And like, I get it narratively, but it's nice to know a book has just historically been driven by these women, Black Canary and Oracle, and that's what it is. And you don't have to explain it more than that. They're these women who work together, and sometimes dudes. I put John Constantine and Green Arrow in there sometimes. You know, it's just, I think the thing for me was that it was my first work at DC. Well, the Harley Quinn short I did ended up coming out before that in the end. But, you know, I didn't know how it was going to go at DC. It was a big, here we go. Like, I don't know. And so they were like, well, what do you want to write? And I was like, well, if it's my choice, I mean, Birds of Prey, like, I mean, they don't give you Batman. You don't just go, hey, I'd like to write my first book be Batman. And everyone goes, oh, okay. No. It doesn't happen that way. But anyway, Birds of Prey, I was like, that's what I want to do. And they were like, who's the cast? And I was like, you're not going to like it. And they were like, what do you mean? And I was like, it's weird. And I think it makes sense. But, you know, and so then, yeah, this cast I pulled together and they were like, wow, Zealot's a wild card. And I was like, I know. It just turned out amazing. I mean, you know, one of the big things from that book has been the Barda and Cass Kane friendship, which I agree is one of the like best, most fun things to come out of it. And like, I had the sense of what that relationship would be and how it would come, but I didn't really know until it was on the page that it would like be so magical and that it would hit for so many people. And even the editor, Ben Abernathy at the time, he was the original Birds of Prey editor that helped me develop the book. You know, he was like, I love your Barda. He's like, I didn't know she was going to be like this. And I was like, yeah, so here we go. So it was a lot of faith from Ben, but it really paid off. I think my frustration with Birds of Prey now is I can't get the attention on it that I can get on Absolute Wonder Woman. And so it's sometimes hard. I want to like scream up and down, like, pay attention to these cool birds over here that I'm writing. And like, it just doesn't have the same impact and it can be frustrating, which I've never really experienced that before. Like my books all tend to perform at like the same level. It's like, yeah, the Black Widow book's selling here and this other thing is also selling here and Captain Marvel's selling here. But with Absolute Wonder Woman, it's just so dominated that I just feel it's leaving my poor little birds in the dust. I sometimes feel bad about it.
It's been amazing. I mean, I just think that Absolute Wonder Woman is, I don't know, it's just blown up so insane. And the work on it is so beautiful that it's unfortunately outshadowing it.
Yeah, it does feel like it's doing something special. It helps also, I think, that fans, for good or ill, even though we've had incredible art on Birds of Prey for pretty much every issue, and we haven't had that, except for the Portal arc where we were deliberately switching artists each issue, we haven't had that much turnover, but people get very frustrated by it right away. And because we don't have that problem on Absolute Wonder Woman, I think it helps. I think the second people start to perceive, oh, well, the art changes on this all the time, as soon as they start to perceive it, even if it's not that accurate, they like lock in to believing that what it is. Like I saw that the other day and someone's like, oh, I wonder who the artist will be. And I was like, I mean, it'll be Sammy Bastry, the guy who's been drawing it since issue 14. Like, you know, he just have one sub for a 2-issue arc, which, I mean, we all know how comics work, that you have to do that. So it's frustrating to see it not this sort of attention. But at the same time, whenever I see people talking about it, they're saying such nice things and like that they're getting such joy out of these characters, just sort of like doing their adventure thing. Like, does everything have to be the end of the world every issue the way, you know, the Absolute books sort of feel? Like, I don't know. I guess for sales they have to, but I don't want to live in that world. I want to live in a world where we can just have different levels of stories all the time and like explore these characters in different ways, you know?
I feel like you're definitely bringing a new light to almost everything that you're touching. Jeff the Landshark, I love Jeff. So like even that story, it's like it's such a fun little thing to follow. Like you said, you're passionate about it, you put a lot of thought into it, you can see it. I mean, you really feel it. Like Jeff doesn't even talk and like I'm like connected to him.
I think sometimes that makes it easier. I mean, he's a challenge. We're doing this new series, the Jeff the Landshark series that starts in June. And, you know, we're getting around his lack of speech in a couple ways. But so far it's actually proved to be really fun. He gets a translator put on him in one, and like what comes out of that, like what language is that he's speaking. So we get to address that. And then later someone is able to like connect with him and understand what he's saying. And like, we're having a lot of fun with it. I think when they first asked me to do it, I was of course super excited. And then I was like, wait, 5 issues. I was like, that's like a little over 100 pages of this character that doesn't talk. What the hell is this story going to be? Like, what am I going to do? It's like, oh my God, I've written myself into this terrible problem and I do not want Jeff to talk beyond what he does now. I think it can be a death knell for a pet type of a character sometimes. I think for the reason we connect to characters like that or because they're different than us. And so I wanted to keep that. But I was like, how am I going to get around this? And it's the meat dress problem. Have you guys ever watched Project Runway, where they design clothes?
It's been a long time, but yes.
So sometimes they give you a horrible challenge where they're like, hey, make a dress out of meat. And people are like, and then they create these incredibly wonderful things out of it. And then sometimes they're like, do what you want, infinite budget. And they get the worst shit you've ever seen. And so sometimes having to make a meat dress is a good thing because it pushes you into corners. It pushes you to think your way out of those situations and mostly to come up with more creative stuff, which I think is sort of the lifeblood. When I was just reading comics before I was writing them, what used to impress me the most, because I was mostly reading superhero comics, seeing them do something interesting with the powers that I hadn't seen before or that seemed really creative or emotionally relevant. But at the same time, I think that's one of the hardest things to do month to month when you're trying to crank out books because you're like, well, I don't have time to invent a new thing here. Let's, canary cry. Here we go. Let's get through it, And so there's a real caution there for all of us. You're just trying to make your rent and write a good book, but are you really thinking about it? Is it the best thing you can do? And I think all of us get trapped in that a bit. But this Jeff book really forced me into a lot of corners that have been fun to wriggle my way out of, I guess.
This is going to be my smoothest transition from Jeff back to Absolute Wonder Woman that I can do. I'm just going to move this across the screen. What you're seeing right now is my rendition of Jeff with a giant sword.
It's not bad. It's not bad. And I say that as someone who's been drawing a lot of sketch covers lately because I have a whole bunch that I owe to my Substack backers. And I put Jeff on most of them, mostly because he's easy to draw, not because I love him, but I do also love him. I'm terrible at drawing men. I'm only slightly better at drawing women, but I can do a little cartoon Landshark. So there have been a lot of those. And I definitely drew one that's not that different than what you did with a sword.
It's awesome.
I've also drawn one that the sketch of one, it hasn't finished yet, but there's a fairly famous panel of Jeff from Deadpool where he's got a knife in his mouth.
Yes.
And they keep calling it his mouth knife.
Yep.
So I drew it with the Athena blade in the sketch. So he's got the Athena blade in his mouth and they're like, well, that is a mouth knife. So it's a whole different level.
I need that from you. You have no idea. Oh my God. That's awesome.
I also love how you just confirmed that we're getting some sort of telepath. Either Jean Grey or Emma Frost is going to be showing up.
Maybe. Or what if it's Rogue?
Oh. Dun, dun.
I mean, that's another. I drew that 2 years ago. I drew that on the back of a cover of Rogue and Jeff walking, and they're both talking in the Mer speak, assuming the Jeff language. Listen, I love my pet characters. Once we got into the Jeff series, really digging into it, I was like, wait, why wouldn't I just have him team up with all my favorite characters that I miss? So expect to see some familiar faces for sure.
So first thought, Birds of Prey will come back with vengeance in the trade. I truly believe the trade sales are going to be vicious because everyone's going to be like, all right, Absolute Wonder Woman has continued to be good for years now. We need more. And then they're going to be, wait a minute, how did I miss this book? And I think that's the way it's going to go down.
I hope you're right. I have to say the trade sales have been pretty good. I haven't got that many royalties from DC because I haven't been there that long. So I'm just sort of starting to see my first royalties and things. And the trades for Birds were really, it was the best trade money I've ever gotten. And that was just for the first volume. So hopefully that continues.
Well, omnibus too, so maybe.
Oh, that would be so fun. I just got a Cosmic X-Men omnibus that my Mr. and Mrs. X is in. And let me tell you what, it comes right after the Joss Whedon, John Cassidy Astonishing X-Men stuff. It's pretty hard to follow. I appreciate that they had the confidence to put us in right there, but I turned the page and I was like, oh, we got to follow these guys? Wow, that's rough.
All right, so obviously we're here because Absolute Wonder Woman's really good. So we're going to start to veer into that, and then we will pull away, and then we'll probably go back if I'm being honest. But just generally speaking, what initially drew you back to Wonder Woman? Did Rebirth have any influence? what was like your approach? Like even like how did it come to be, what you can share of like how you ended up on this book?
So I almost quit because Scott offered it to me and he was like, hey, you're going to do this. Like we'd talked about it a ways before. And I think I was probably on a short list of names, right? I'm sure they were talking to a few people or thinking about a few people. When he came back to me, I sort of knew it was out there and he came back to me and he's like, yeah, he's like, I need you to do it. I think you're the right person. I think it's going to be great. So I almost quit because I couldn't figure it out. I just been banging my head against the wall for weeks and I had been reading and rereading a lot of Wonder Woman stuff. And I was like, every take that I came up with had something about it that just felt wrong. Like she felt too angry and not like herself, or like she felt too overpowered, or she didn't have powers. It just felt all like stuff we've not only seen before and explored before, that something that I wasn't interested in, that it like didn't resonate for me. And I was like, I maybe can't do this. And I was like really wrestling with myself because on one hand, you know, not everybody is right for every book at the right time. And like there's power in knowing that and being able to step away. At the same time, when Scott Snyder asked you to do a big book that's a huge, like if you have any ambition in this industry, like you need to not say no to that and you need to not fail at it. So I was taking it very seriously about whether I had to bail or not. And I also knew that I would be leaving Scott in a really big lurch. I would have burned at least 3 weeks, probably longer, of his build time if he had to replace me. It was right in those last couple days, I was rereading Historia a lot. And I was also reading Kingdom Come, which I got the like super deluxe digital version that had the scripts in the back and it had all that process stuff, all that incredible Alex Ross art and design. And it really helped me in thinking about iconic characters and how to recontextualize them and like what works and what doesn't work and why. That plus Historia, I think, was what helped me get there at seeing that maybe there was something special there. I use a specific brainstorming technique that's like very messy, which is good for me because I'm a very neat person. Like if I make a list and then I fuck the list up, like my instinct is to tear out the page and start again. And that's not helpful to writing and to creative flow. So there's like a very messy like tree format I use for brainstorming. And within this messy page, one of the things was witch Wonder Woman raised by an enemy in hell. And I was like, that's something that I'm interested in even before you say it's Diana. And then when you say it's Diana, I'm even more interested in it because it fits with a lot of things that she's about, but it also seems to go against the grain of a lot of things that she's about. And so there's something very interesting in there. And then I think I had Circe question mark with like 5 question marks. And I was like, that's it. That's the idea. And I can see 100 issues of that without even thinking too hard about it. I can see how it can happen. And so I knew I had it. And I got to tell you, it's like the most confidence I've ever gone into pitch with. In fact, I don't even think I thought it was a pitch by that point. Like I had written it up. I'd talked to Scott about it. We'd submitted it. I'd talked to Chris about it. But now we were having the Zoom meeting. And like I was so confident in the pitch in a way I've really never been before that I didn't even really think it was a question mark. Like at the end of the meeting, Chris is like, oh, by the way, this is all green lit. And I was like, oh yeah, I figured, which I've never had the balls to be like, yeah, of course. Like that's just not my vibe. My vibe is very self-deprecating and, you know, I'm an idiot. Let's figure out how to make this work. But I just knew it worked. I could just see it. And when Hayden and Jordy came into the picture and it was clear that they'd be doing it, I just really knew we had something and that it was going to be really special. And it was that charge where, because when you first take this project on, you're like, well, shit, I have to be as good as these other books. Like, you know, you want everyone to be good because you want the whole line to be good, but you still want to be the best of the good things. Like you're competitive. It's a good thing. I mean, it can be toxic too, but it's a thing that drives you toward the hoop, right? To do something better and bigger and more spectacular. And I was very intimidated that other teams, you know, and I'd seen there wasn't as much stuff done on Superman, but there was quite a bit of Batman stuff done and it was all so incredibly cool. And so I was super intimidated. But when I knew our idea and Hayden and Jordy, it was like the concern washed away. I just knew it was good. And a big part of that, I got to tell you, is DC getting it and helping us and getting out of our way when necessary in like the best way an editor and publisher can do. Because I got to be honest with you, that first issue is fucking weird. There are a lot of publishers that would not be like, this is okay. There's like 2 named characters that people know in it. She's fighting these creatures. We don't explain anything. We just dump you in. There are these long flashbacks with no words of this child growing up. There's a lot of fighting, but it doesn't really fit the formula. And how much that issue lands or not is very dependent on the reader and how they're reading it in that last minute, because it's an issue that really builds, right? That build up to getting her to say that word Amazon and then the release when she does. But like, I can't control how people are going to read it. It's not like a movie where I can pace that exactly right? Like, I don't know how every person is going to read it. And so I knew it was a big risk. And Chris knew it was a risk, the editor, Chris Conroy. And I'm sure DC knew it was a risk too. And I really appreciate them going, no, we see it. We're going to let you do it, you know? And I'm very grateful because there was plenty of talk about how we were ending that issue and like, was this the right way? And I was like, honestly, I think if we mess with it, we're going to upset that build and it's not going to land emotionally for nearly as many people if we mess with that fine balance at the end. And so we agreed to leave it. And I don't know if another publisher lets you do that these days, especially on such a big risk of a book of a #1 that has to hit, right? I'll be eternally grateful to them for trusting us. And I think it was the right call. I think it's shown that it worked, that it was the right thing to do.
You mentioned that the whole Absolute line has got some very heavy hitters in there. And to be the MVP on the All-Star team, you're definitely shaping up for that. Exactly.
Well, thank you.
Like, have you and Hayden decided what you're going to do when your Eisner wins?
Don't jinx us, man.
I called the shot last year. Like, the moment that Tom Taylor's Nightwing 105 was solicited, I literally said, I want to congratulate Tom Taylor on his Eisner win. And then literally a year later...
Is that the one where it's from the POV?
Yeah, that's the POV. The moment that was announced, I was like, oh yeah, he's winning the Eisner.
I love
There's
it.
no way he's not.
Someday Bruno and I are going to get to do something together because he and I are very aligned in how we like to approach comic book storytelling. And when I saw that POV issue, I was like, God damn you, Tom. God damn you for getting there before me with the perfect artist who like completely gets it, because that issue is dynamite. Really great. Incredible exploration of the form.
Yeah, with comics, they do award creativity and a new take in the medium that hasn't been done before. And that's one of the best things about comics is, like, I'm sure there's movies that are great out there and they do something completely different, but they're not nearly as accepted or awarded. I think comics does a great job in awarding that. And like what you and Hayden are doing is new. It is a completely different take on a literal classic character. Was Hayden's art style any bit to shape the tone and direction, or did you come at it together? What was it like when you knew that Hayden was going to be on the book? Did you think like, oh, we've got this in the bag now?
So when we were talking about who it should be, when we were talking about the candidates, there was a very short list of people that we were considering. And from the jump, I knew Scott had worked with Hayden, so I knew there was a lot of respect in that relationship already and interest. And then Chris was like, I think it's Hayden. So Chris was leaning really hard towards Hayden. And I was like, you know, I just haven't seen enough of their work. Got to look at some more. And Chris was like, let me send you some of this Batman stuff they're doing. It wasn't the Dark Patterns stuff, which I saw later, which is incredible. It was something with Alan Moore. Anyway, it was a short or something in an anthology, whatever. It was like the coolest shit I've ever seen. And I was like, well, can't say no to this. I'd be insane. I'd just be kicking myself every day forever if we passed on this person who is doing like some of the coolest shit I've ever seen, truly. But you still don't know until you're in it on your book. When I saw the first designs, not only how quickly Hayden was able to go from, first of all, the first pass, super cool and fun. Like if we'd been doing a different book, you could have used any of those designs. But I think it only took us 3 passes to get to the final design. And really, there was a massive evolutionary leap from those first designs to the second design. And then the second to third was just tiny little tweaks, right, to get it perfect. And I think when I saw those designs, I just knew it was going to be something really special. I think that first script, you know, it's always hard to do a first script when it's for someone you haven't written before. And it's particularly hard when you're doing it on a really big #1 that has a lot of attention on it. I don't know. Hayden and I were just really in sync. I knew they were going to do a lot of really intricate, cool panel work and storytelling work, but we didn't really discuss it. I just knew they were going to do it and we'll see what it is. But then they also, even though they're super interested in that kind of work, they were also very excited about those, 3 or 4 double page spreads that like show the cave like slowly warming up and becoming this home instead of a roof over your head. Like Hayden was super into that. I feel like if you are with a collaborator who's sort of not hearing you, they might have tried to dress up that section and make it more interesting instead of just letting it live the way it needs to live. And Hayden never once tried for that. I think they just get it. They're an incredibly smart creator. And even though like storytelling is just second to none, I think even though they're interested in things like panels and how those shape the page and how those shape the story you're reading, they're never so attached to them that they put them where they don't belong. There's one coming up soon where the panels, it's in 10, I think, because it's just the layouts, but that I've seen, it's 10. But the way the panels forms the shape of an animal, it's just so cool, man. It's cool. You know, my partner loves comics and knows a lot about comics, arguably in many areas, knows more about comics than I do. And they'll frequently like see me looking at Wonder Woman pages. They're like, you're like doing Mobius Wonder Woman, and it's incredibly cool. And I just do. I think that sometimes like Hayden is like that in the way they sort of approach that stuff. Yeah.
Mobius Wonder Woman, my brain just exploded. I didn't even think about describing the series that way, but if I need to hook anyone, that's the way to do it now, is Mobius Wonder Woman. Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm stealing that forever.
Well, listen, if it helps move some books, I'm all for it. I just think Hayden has such an interesting brain, and they approach things differently than I do in many ways. But in most things that are important, we're all very aligned. The entire team is. Jordy, Becca, our editor, we're all very like driving to the exact same hoop. And I just think it helps when everyone has that sort of clarity of purpose. It just makes it easier and more joyous, quite frankly, to get things done. When you're all on the same page and nobody has to fight anyone else, nobody has to fight on anything or have any work like not fitting, it also gives you a chance to try to do more because you're not wasting your time trying to just do the minimum, which sometimes comics is, man. It's a really grueling schedule. So sometimes you're just trying to get it all the way done and good enough, you know, and like, I think we got it. But on Wonder Woman, it does feel like, not that we're not always busy, but it does feel like there's a little extra time to make sure it's exactly what we're trying to do, you know?
I think the beginning statement where you felt like, you know, you have all these people around you with the absolute everything kind of happening, and you really are the MVP. 100%. I've been on here numerous times saying how this is the best book.
That's against Snyder too. And like Scott is on such a pedestal for me. Like I admire him as a human being. Like so many panels I've watched him talk like beyond comics and just like personal stuff.
Kelly, what Kyle isn't telling you is him and Dimitri have stalked Scott for years.
He knows who we are, but he doesn't know our names, and that makes it worse. I haven't had the nerve to like pitch for him to come on the show yet.
Oh, you should. He's so great.
Well, he might not want to after I say your book is absolutely better.
Well, maybe hide that. Listen, none of this happens without Scott. And I don't get on the book. Even the line isn't happening. And we've talked a little bit at the beginning of this that I don't really do cons and signings. Like, I don't think that's a huge problem, but it's not helpful. It's not helpful when you're trying to promote a book. It's definitely like a negative that goes next to my list. You know who's out there hitting the pavement, going to shops, doing every single thing he can, living, breathing it? Scott Snyder, man. He is a true believer and a true fan, and I love it. Scott wrote probably my favorite Batman ever. Black Mirror is probably my favorite Batman story ever. The fact that it's not Bruce is shocking.
Yeah. Dick bet is best bet.
I mean, it's also my go-to anecdote about why it's so important to not get entrenched in your idea of what should be or shouldn't be, and to open your mind to creators and let them tell you the story they're trying to tell you. Because I was one of those fans who was like, listen, I love Dick Grayson, but he's already got a role. Why would I want to see him as Batman? Bruce is my Batman. Why would I want to do this? Well, Scott Snyder came around and showed me why, because it was one of my favorite Batman stories of all time, and it didn't have to be Bruce in that role. You know, also I would say Bruce not in that role gave us incredible Dick Damian through that Batman and Robin book. I mean, we got so much out of it. So when people sort of knee-jerk reaction at what they think they don't want. You just got to keep an open mind a little bit. I mean, not everything's going to be for every person, and that's fine, but I urge people to not prejudge things. Like, I get trapped in that too, but, you know, being proved really wrong a couple times is a great lesson to keep your mind open, you know? And Black Mirror was one of my big lessons for that. I think all the books in the line are really strong. I like Batman a lot. I always like Batman, so I'm always interested in Gotham. I was always interested in the things going on there. So Scott gets a little bit of an edge. I also think Nick Dragata is doing crazy, fun things that are exciting to see in a Bat book, which is not always kind of a style you get in a Bat book. But to me right now, Martian Manhunter feels like it's coming for my lunch. So I feel now the pressure for Hayden and I and Jordy and everyone to stay ahead of Dennis and Javier, because my God, is that book interesting. I mean, I think the good news is they're such completely different books. And that's what's so beautiful to me about the line. Like, all of these books are different. They all have something different to say. They're all look visually different and have a different approach. But Hayden and I feel like we've been challenged, let me just say, in the best way. In the best way. I think it's incredible. I'm also dying to work with Javier, which he knows. So it feels like he's just rubbing it in my face.
He is also a saint. Javier is like one of the nicest dudes in the whole world.
A lot of these dudes are really nice. I mean, Leo Romero is a comics god and like the nicest kid you'll ever meet. Mattia is same, like just the nicest guys, like really sweethearts. It's great.
Absolute Martian Manhunter felt like an acid trip. It was a wild, wild book. I mean, the art is crazy, but I mean, from what you're saying of what's to come from Absolute Wonder Woman, I think you got something creative of your own. So
I think it's good that they're different, right? Like, Martian Manhunter feels very exploratory to me and like very specific in what it's trying to do and say. And I think we're pretty specific too, but it's different, right? It feels different. The emotional component is a little different. So I'm happy for them to live next to each other. I just feel, in a good way, that competitive edge of like, look what they're doing. And honestly, I think that's happening across the line. I think we're each seeing what others are doing and we're like, oh, well, okay, then maybe I should do this then, you know? And that's great. That's great to keep the books exciting. I guess maybe there's a point where you got to take the foot off the gas, but we're not there yet.
So, you know what's better than 3 Jokers? 3 lassos. So we want to know, how did you come up with this idea? And if you don't mind for the clips, telling us about each one.
Well, I can't tell you about the third one because we haven't really revealed it yet. Nice try. I see you, Kyle. So we haven't said what it is yet. Here's what I'll do. It's called the Troika. So there you go.
Oh.
But we haven't said what it is yet. The reason there are 3 is mostly because we knew we wanted more than one. And Hecate is a triple goddess. So things tend to happen in 3s. You see a lot of that if you're looking around. So that was why one of the reasons we went with 3. I didn't know the sacrifice lasso was going to end up being, when we designed it, I didn't know it was going to end up being like the whole linchpin of 5. You know, we had the rough for what that arc was going to be, but I wasn't sure how we were going to resolve it. There were a few options and I'm very happy with how it resolved, but it did make me feel like Troika really has to be revealed similarly. Like, I want it to really matter when we show it off. You know, Nemesis got to be the first shiny, but the others, I think we really got to earn the story there. But it just made sense to me that if they're building these of their own, why would they stop at one? Like, you know, she's got a whole bag of magic tricks, so why wouldn't we have a couple in there?
I'll take that answer. And I want to shout out just for a second the sacrifice of the arm.
Thank you.
Brilliant. that's all. Just brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you.
So clever. I don't even know how you'd come up with it. It's just great.
Like, a lot of things led to it. It was, how are we going to get Steve out of hell? That shouldn't be an easy solution. That should be something that has to be earned. And I do this too. A lot of times in magic stories, there's a lot of lip surface paid to magic comes with sacrifice, that magic is often an exchange of energy. So taking something, you have to give something, things like that. We all say that all the time, but we rarely show a like really heavy cost to that affects your main characters. And I felt like if we were going to lean into magic so hard as we were planning to, I felt like we really had to show there's a cost here. And Diana herself has like not only felt that cost before, she probably will feel it again. And like, where is that going to take us? But I also just wanted to show her incredible sacrifice, what she's willing to do for people, what she's willing to do for what she thinks her role is in this world. And listen, you know, if you met Diana on the street, you might be convinced by by her, but like she would seem insane. Like she thinks she's powered by gods, but like for her, even though it's faith, it's also not faith because she's seeing this shit, you know? When you're able to cut off your arm and get a guy out of hell, like you don't have to have that much faith. You just have belief. It's a real living thing in your life. And so I just think magic is like a very tangible, literal thing for her because of the way she was raised, the sort of power she has. And I thought that a really good way to show people how powerful that is to really show it. And, you know, I didn't know, Hayden and I didn't talk a lot about it. I knew we probably weren't going to be able to show her like actually cutting it off on the page. And the way they did it was just so powerful. I felt like that reveal of it already being done, you know, and it also made it feel like Diana is her own storm, you know, like even Circe kind of can't control her. Like this is a powerful person who just does what she thinks is right. She's like an unstoppable force. What are you going to do against that? And like, I love in that moment, it feeling like Circe being sort of humbled by the sacrifice of that and the power of it, but also understanding I can't fucking control this child. Like this is a force that is being unleashed onto the world for good and ill, you know?
I like that. I like that a lot.
I would be remiss without bringing up one of my favorite characters. You had a lot of time to play with Jessica Jones, and I was curious if you ever got the opportunity again, which direction would you like to take Jessica in? Because one of the things that is, of course, a part of Jessica's mythos is her relationship to Purple Man, and you did an amazing job with the Infinity comic. So I was curious if you would continue on that route or you would want to go in a completely different direction away from Kilgrave.
I would always want to write Jessica Jones because I love that character. It would be hard to turn her down if she came back my way. I think she's fantastic. I think it's a shame that there's just not a constant superhero detective book over at Marvel Comics that's gone for like 100 issues. It's such an interesting role. Like, I don't know why. I guess people just don't like to mix their genres as much as I do, but I think a detective in a superhero world is fucking great. It seems like it writes itself. So I would just be happy doing that. But I will say that it does feel like I would have to have a big, exciting story to come back to her because I just feel like Purple Daughter, I feel like it was a great story, but I feel like it was just like so emotionally devastating. Like I got to have something to say, right? I don't want to go back and have it be diminishing returns. So I'd have to really think about what could be a really important big story for her that could follow that in that sense. That said, the more time that passes, the more distance I feel from that story. So the easier it sort of gets to imagine going back. So maybe. We'll see. I would love to do it with Mattia again because he's got such a great noir style of that. You know, it's great.
So I want to bring up the Cull. I read it in one sitting, which is kind of like an inside joke that like it's Panaloid's comic books and more because I don't get to read much because I'm doing all of everything else that you say.
He does the more.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm big on just general sci-fi. If you could just a quick synopsis and just like the inspiration behind it, and if you could hint that there'll ever be more, when we could get more, definitely want more of that.
That's Mattia Delius and I doing a sort of, I don't know, Goonies meets Sliders? I don't know. It's about 5 teenagers who they're supposedly shooting a short film in the summer before they all sort of go their separate ways. So they're all like 18 years old. But one of them lost her brother a year ago. And so really she's sort of taking them all to something she found, but was afraid to explore before where she thinks he might be. And it takes them to sort of a liminal space where it seems like it's connecting to other times or other worlds or something. And going there infects them with that liminal space. And going home, they find that things are completely fucked. And so it goes from there about what they do about that. I love the book so much. I love doing it with Mattia. I think it should be optioned yesterday.
That was my next thought.
Yeah, I think it would make a great television show or a movie. I wonder sometimes if the fact that we haven't done the second volume sort of hurts it. Like when I look at it from one angle, I'm like, well, I think you'd option this and be excited because you can do whatever you want with it from here. And then sometimes I think, well, people want more IP if they're going to pay for it. They don't have any ideas about what they want that to be. Mattia and I have lots of ideas about what we want that second piece to be, but financially, I don't know. It's a question mark. And I'm sorry to say that the further away we get from it without it being optioned, like if it gets optioned or something, that gives you sort of a new chance, a new bite, I think. But without that happening, I do think the longer we wait, the harder it gets to continue it. But we have a lot of ideas, both that we want to do within the story and also how we can approach the art that would maybe help us get more content out faster because it took a bit too long to do it with just Tia. That style that he works in is pretty time consuming. doing. But the great thing about multiple worlds is you can show different ways those look with different artists. So there's a lot of flexibility there for pairing Mattia with other artists, to show different aspects of what you're dealing with. So I hope we'll get to do it. I love the project. It was very well received. It's just the market's really tough for indies right now. So
that ending, though.
I know, it's brutal. It's brutal.
The ending, though.
If that's the story, and it has to be because I love that ending, you can't just do one more issue there. That's not enough. That doesn't solve it. You need more. You need a big second adventure. And yeah, I hope we get to do it. If I win the lottery, it's next on the list.
When?
God, do you guys have that power? Please make it happen.
So Absolute Wonder Woman #9 hits shelves June 25th. Anything you can share with us about what readers can expect?
So #9 is the issue where she actually goes into the maze. So that's like a big shift of what's she going to find inside there. Just how horrible will it be? I think people have seen online she's going to find Ferdinand in there for sure, which is exciting for fans and hopefully will be fun for people who don't know Ferdinand. He's a giant minotaur. Well, not really a minotaur because he's not from Minas, but some seriously annoying Greek geek nerddom. So there's also some other things in there. It's not going to go well.
Love a good maze.
Me too. I forgot when I was suggesting it that Hayden is such a machine, because there were a lot of ways we could have done it, some of which are less time consuming. And Hayden's like, no, I think it should be like an old Greek maze, like that was sunken or whatever. I was like, are you sure? Because that's a lot of bricks. I would not volunteer for that. They're like, no, it's fine. And it looks incredible. They're a monster.
That's exciting. Yeah, I don't know. From every issue, I feel like they really push, what is a challenge to them anymore? It's just crazy.
They do everything I ask so well. I don't know that anything is a challenge. I'd love to find what it is.
The impressive thing to me, too, is the intricacy of all the line work on everything. There's so much detail on every little bit. You could just take every little section of any page.
And when I tell you they're the fastest artists I've ever worked with, I don't get it. Do they clone themselves and the poor clones are working in a basement somewhere? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Probably demands an investigation. No, they're just so fast. It's crazy. Just to get these stupid comics done, ruining lives.
It's wild, but kudos. Okay, this question may be pushing a little, but is there anything at all, maybe just a little hint, as to when or how Absolute Wonder Woman will cross over with the other Absolute DC characters?
I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say because I'm not positive, but my my best guess is it might show up in next December.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So, yeah, don't get too excited about it. I can already hear people are just going to start treating it like gospel. It's not set in stone, but maybe you'd see two characters in the same book on the same panel in December.
Wow.
That's a possibility. Do not get too excited.
We're going to edit this to make it seem like it is fact. So can you say it's fact? It's 100% happening? Just so we can edit it in.
Say that.
Where can our viewers follow you for updates, especially with everything else that you got going on, all your announcements and everything? What social medias do you use? Do you not use? Do you not want to use, but you have to use?
I'm pretty much only using Blue Sky regularly at this point. So that's just Kelly Thompson, Blue Sky. I am on Instagram, but I'm trying not to use it, so I don't know. So I would say Blue Sky and the Substack, which is a newsletter. There's a free version. There's a paid version. Free version doesn't happen too often. People did get sort of hammered last week because we were doing an X-Men war battle where people can vote on matchups. It was very fun, but you can't vote if you're not a paid subscriber. So a couple people, I'm sure, were like, how dare they send this to me? I can't even vote. But most of the time, it's fun. It's informative. It's a good way to know all the stuff that I've got coming out and what's coming up. And sometimes I try to talk about things that aren't about me, but mostly I fail at that. So that's 1979 semifinalist.substack.com. And the Blue Sky is just Kelly Thompson.
Any other projects you like to mention?
Well, I can't look at Kyle's face. I saw that.
Damn it.
I can't say what it is, but I can tease that there is something very big coming, but I just don't know when. I thought we were already going to have announced it, and it hasn't happened, so I don't know what the new plan is. I think probably they're trying to coordinate with, con schedules and things like that about what they want to do, about how they want to roll it out, but it's a pretty big deal. I'm very excited about it. I'm also a little terrified. The issue 1 is the hardest issue 1 I've ever had to write, even harder than Absolute Wonder Woman. I don't think it's as good as Absolute Wonder Woman, but that's mostly because it's really hard. I really had to figure some shit out to get it down. You'll know it when it happens. You'll be like, oh yeah, that's the thing.
Something really big. You have to think about that. Maybe Godzilla's coming back to DC.
I did almost get to write one of those Godzilla Marvel things.
Oh, really?
But it didn't work. Yeah, it didn't work out. We couldn't make it work with the timing and the artist, so it didn't happen.
I picked up a lot of the covers. I haven't read any of them.
Captain Marvel vs. Godzilla would have been really cool.
Yeah, that would have been pretty fun. I think I was going to get maybe the Avengers one, I think was what they were mentioning, or one of the Avengers ones.
The Avengers.
I mean, I will say, if they'd given me Jeff versus Godzilla, I definitely would have said yes. Why didn't we do that? I should have pitched that. That was
that could
dumb.
Still be in the works.
Especially because he's already been giant in the It's Jeff strip when he licks that thing at the Avengers labs and he turns giant and then he's like wearing a building like a hat. It was amazing.
Just call whoever you got to call. They're going to give it to you. Just make it happen.
CB, I got an idea.
It's so easy. You already have Jeff. They're doing Godzilla. Just do it. Just do it. So that's going to do it for this episode of Panelids, Comic Books, and More. Big thanks to Kelly Thompson for hanging out with us. This is one of the best days of my life, and I think I can speak to all of us. It's a good day. It was very nice. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and hop into our Discord to keep the conversation going.